Yo, check the mic, 1, 2, Beacon is the name. Lights up the city, ain't playing no games. Joel Simmons and Michael Seville, the vision is clear. Dropping knowledge, conquering all of your fear. Beacon, Beacon, that's the sound of the future. The main hosts are here, they built the whole structure. Community strong, we rise from the ground. The Beacon power up, yeah, time to look up.
Here we
That's
go.
always fun watching
Here we
that.
go.
Man. Yeah.
What is going on? What is going on, people? It is Community Beacon. It's myself, Palm Beach Mike, with my brother from another mother. Well, hold on, let me.
There it is. That's it. Put it in there for you, bro. I think we got a little delay here, but that's all right.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't even understand why. I'm on my phone. I'm not exactly sure why there's a delay, but I hear it. Of course, on the other side of the screen, we got my brother from another mother. We're gonna try to get through this one. Joel Simmons. Everybody give it up to the brother Joel Simmons.
Glad to be here with you one more day.
Amen.
Let me tell you something interesting before we get into any type of topic right here. And we've been doing a lot of kind of like open mic style conversations lately. I had a conversation with a good friend of mine, and he does the podcast. He was just telling me about how he was looking to do his own podcast. And so as we are kind of rebranding our It Starts With Me series and prepping for the Opportunity Lab, we started to discuss our series, Mike, the Community Beacon. And he was telling me about his with his partner. And he was like, he loves doing it. However, it's a very strict script. And now this doesn't go for everybody. There's 8 billion people in the world, so it doesn't really matter. But this is just something interesting, right? And he was just telling me that he just loves this open freeness that we just exhibit inside of this arena where a person can actually think about things and speak those things that comes to them in the moment as if it's a real conversation. So I'm just really interested in this. I'm really interested in what we can do with it as well coming forward. But I really feel like we've kind of captured what we set out to do, whether other people understand that or not. And that was to do in the most simplest form, bring the conversation that we had on the telephone to an audience. Nothing more. It's so simple. And it's like we've tried a few different ways to make it, to really construct, and pull together certain things. And I loved each and every bit of that. But at the end of the day, it's just two guys calling each other on the telephone saying, yo, how was your week? That's it.
Yeah, absolutely. We've done super scripted shows. I think when we first started, we would have a lot of materials prepared, which was good as well. And if we decide to do that as well, it always works out because we have plenty of material for us to speak on. But ultimately, I think how we decided to do it was really about our journey, right? Like as we're in the journey, we're in the process, which ultimately is what life is. We kind of speak to it, right? A lot of the things that we speak about, we're have probably recently done it. We're perfecting it. We're learning about it, and we kind of just put it out there. So over these last 5-6 years, sheesh. This is what we have. We got Community Beacon.
Yeah, yeah. I'm telling you something, man. I've really been enjoying some of these these I don't want to call them, I don't want to say it's natural. They are pretty natural, but let's just go with the word unscripted. You know, these and please, if anyone's watching us even in a rerun, it is not so scripted that it's like words on a screen that we're reading. We never have gotten that scripted, right? It's just we've taken certain bits and pieces and brought those things to the table and formed some of our opinions and readied some of those facts and things like that, and had some of those things that were there ready for us to be able to recite. But at the end of the day, even in the middle of it, you know, you got this thing that you're looking at, and then the brother says, however, and it's like throwing that away, you know, like, all right, we've got new information. Da, 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 da. New information. It's time to respond to what's really happening. That brother right there did some research and he pulled up something that I didn't know about. And now everything that I got, I just need to throw it away because now.
And I think we don't necessarily throw a lot of our stuff away, right? I think we just add to it, or you know what? Sometimes we just make it more simpler. Here was something I was thinking about today. And shouts out to Chris. Chris gave me a, uh, I want to say a credit he had, and it was to go to the what they call float therapy. Have you ever done it, brother?
I have
Float
not
therapy.
used flow therapy.
Awesome. So they have a couple of these places in Palm. I went to one in Palm Beach Gardens, actually in Alton, to where you go and it's a big pod, right? And they fill it up with salt, and you close it down, and it has a bunch of water in it, and you kind of just float. It's like 30 to 45 minutes. It no stimulus, supposed to be no stimulus, but that light was flashing the entire time. And then you have it starts off with some music, and then you're just floating, like no sense of time, and just kind of being held there. So shouts out to Chris for gifting that to me. I haven't been in years, and I was able to go today, and you probably can really tell because it really slows you down. And as I was in there, one of the things that came to mind was the simplification of a lot of things, right? So we get a lot of information as we go along. And for me personally, I don't want to say I'm complicating it, but in the understanding of it, there's a lot more to it, especially when it's given from somebody else's uh, point of view. And so to put it within my life and the nuances, at first it seems pretty complicated, but then you get it once you really understand it, you can start to really simplify it. And I think oftentimes when you and I are engaging in conversation, there's this, we get the information, and then the new information actually simplifies the old information, because most of the stuff that we talk about was already built on some type of foundation or principle, right? But we just get new information possibly, and then we just kind of simplify it. And then now I'm adding this to kind of my overall core thing is like less is more, and to simplify things, right? Most people don't understand a lot of different things, but definitely like the structure of stuff, because they don't take the time to really go in depth on it.
Hmm. I like that. I did take a moment to kind of look up. I thought you had said flow therapy,
Float.
but you said float.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
now I see what you're saying. No, I still didn't know about that. But I did hear about like the sensory uh, uh, deprivation.
Deprivation. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was just like, oh, okay. I didn't really realize that they had put all that stuff together. I did see at one point in time, it came up in my feed like YouTube, where one of these guys, these influencers had went into this sensory deprivation chamber. His was pitch black dark. I don't know if yours was, but that was really kind of crazy for him, being pitch black dark, no sound, no movement, no anything, just pitch black dark. And so that was just kind of crazy thinking about that. That I would believe you could probably get into some really, really deep um, uh, mind spaces inside of something like that. So, but I like what you're saying, and it's yeah, I think that sometimes it may be the simplification of something that is complex. Um, and then and this is maybe speaking to where we are today, right? Maybe not speaking to what we've done over the last 5 years, because you know, I think that part of it is the journey of getting here, right? All of the different things that we've learned and the adjustments that we've had to make in order to be able to have these types of conversations and to continue to move forward. Right before we got in here to the audience, we were talking about a few things that we could discuss, and the list was like short in a sense of I'm game for whatever, right? That's what I believe it is. It's just in the sense of like I'm really in game of whatever. And my answer was, when I was asked the question, I didn't have an answer, but the thought came to my mind, and that thought was I'm in the process, right? Just being in the process. And so I think it's interesting that this conversation kind of navigated to a journey without any plans. It just kind of navigated into the sense of being in a journey, and it's like that's where I feel like I find myself. And so, if I'm in the journey, if you will, we're always in the journey, right? This is like an infinite motion. Being in the journey is being in life. And I would argue that even in death, you're still in the journey, right? Wherever one door closes, another door opens. However, we just don't understand that life, right? There's just what our thought thinks of what it may be, or our beliefs tell us what it may be. But in the essence, the only time you're ever really going to know is when you're presently dead, right? And so I think that that's interesting. Now, there are some who have the quote unquote experience of death. However, if they're alive, was it an experience? I want to get into all of that, like metaphysics and stuff like this, but and maybe we do end up getting into some of that. I don't have a deep study on that today, though, so it would all be opinion. Nonetheless, the infinite journey is it's kind of like what I'm bringing in, and with there being an infinite journey, I think that my statement to Mike before coming in about being in the process is me taking a definitive look at my process while I'm in it. Because if we are in an infinite journey, an infinite process, it never ends. I think the difference between the two is when I say I'm in the process is because I'm actually looking at it, right? Like I'm walking, it's like walking through a corridor and noticing the doors and the wall and the floor or the absence thereof, the flowers on the wall. It's taking it in intentionally, knowing that you aren't at the quote unquote destination that you're driving towards, that you're walking towards, that you're running towards, but understanding that this corridor is that it's going to that direction, no matter how many twists, turns, or caveats or alleyways there are, you are going towards a destination and you will arrive there at some point in time, whether it's the exact destination that you desire to be at once you get there or not, we don't know, right? Because it's still yet far from us. And between that difference and la di da da da, I'm living life, or I'm so focused on life, I don't have time to smell the roses, right? And so that's how I would differentiate this in the process that I'm in.
Man, I'm so The last week we kind of spoke about presence, being present. So what I heard from what you said was when like it's a noticing, like you're conscious of this actual process, which I invite most of us to do. Like you mentioned, the journey never ends. It was interesting because when I was leaving the gym this afternoon or this morning, and a guy I knew came up that we spoke before. Kenny, shouts out to Kenny. And he was like, "Man, how you feeling?" I'm like, "I'm feeling great. How are you feeling?" He's like, "I'm feeling great." He said, uh, I said, when do you think you're gonna be over with this? He's like, "No, just mention the same thing you said." He said, like, this is a journey, like this never stops, right? And he said, I caught the bug when I was 13. I think he's definitely in his 70s. He's like, I caught the bug when I was 13 and it's been on ever since. And I was like, yeah, that's true. I said, mine was about 13 as well, because when I started football, I stopped. I did stop for a moment, but it's been that same thing. And so I thought it was interesting that you mentioned this journey and to be able to notice it. Because oftentimes we're just allowing life to happen, right? Life is happening and we're just kind of going and with the flow, and we don't stop to notice things until possibly we have like well, we would have like a major decision, or what some people would say, I'm at a crossroads, right?
Mm.
Although we're always at a crossroads, you could always go left or right or stop or back or whatever it is. These things are always happening, but we don't really take notice until we get to a point, possibly something that we've never seen before because it presents itself. But when you're noticing these things, I think a couple things can happen. One thing is that everything becomes a crossroad. Like, because when all of a sudden when you notice things, it's like everything is like a decision. Is this, and then we kind of think of, is this the right decision or the wrong decision? And then the other thing is that you can stop and just be grateful in the whole thing and being present, which to me at this point, where I'm at in the journey, is like being present for everything, because now I'm starting to notice things that I probably never noticed before. I'm starting to connect with things and people, places, and things that I didn't connect with and draw the dots on. I was watching YouTube today and something came to my mind. I was like, man, I wonder whatever happened when I used to breed dogs back in the day. This is back in 2003, 2004. And I said, I wonder what happened to Cruz. There was a guy who took me out when I went to California, and he was taking me all these different places. I said, I wonder whatever happened to this guy. And I typed his name into Google, and then I had someone who was actually talking about the history of this bloodline. This is a really prolific bloodline in America. The American Bullies, they actually started American Bullies. And I remember when it first started, like the process of it, like I was there. And this guy is telling the story about, on YouTube now, about this thing that happened, 20 years now, because we're in 2026. So it's like over 20 years now about this thing. I'm like, man, I remember I was there. I wasn't noticing the process of it and everything that it was, because where it is now, I mean, these guys are selling these dogs for like $10, $20, $30,000, right? But back then it was like, to us, it was awesome. It was like 1,500 to 2,000. We were breeding these dogs. I was really going through these different ways of genetics and so on and so forth. But it was just something I was doing. Like, it's something I'm supposed to be doing. And now looking back, it was like, oh man, it was a whole process, especially to get to where it is now, 2026. And until I had the chance to actually notice it and think about these different things, like all this stuff were kind of passing me. I want to say it was passing me by, but it was kind of just like a blip on the radar. So I appreciate our process that we have now as well, where we're actually, this is one of the reasons why we set out to do this, was to actually document, right? For me, one of the things was like, I want to document this space so that, my Elijah, if he's blessed with kids, or Paul, he's blessed with kids, or any of the other kids that I'm probably going to have at some point, if God blesses me as well, they get a chance to see like this, how kind of things kind of change over time, right? Because if you're not cognizant of it, someone who met me probably 6, 7 years ago wouldn't even kind of understand who I am. They'd understand the essence of me. I think my essence stayed the same, but the way that I'm approaching things, the way that I'm seeing things, the way that things resonate with me, the stories that I'm telling myself, right now, the like sitting in this thought, the float pod earlier. I was like, while I was in, I was like, man, I'm thinking about this totally differently. Like before, I was kind of like willing my way through this thing because I don't know if anybody who ever gets a chance to do, you'll see, like when you're there and there's no sense of space or time, and then barely weight, like you barely feel weight, like it just feels like you're in that moment. And sometimes, and I remember one point in time, I can kind of remember that experience was like panicking, right? Like I fell asleep and I woke up and I'm like, it felt like you're like falling through space or something. So I'm like splashing in this thing, like, what's going on? I'm like, oh, I'm in the float tank. But this time it was like, I'm able to listen to the voice in the head, all of them. I'm able to be with this feeling. I'm able to just experience all these different ways of being and actually kind of just watching it. I'm not necessarily disassociated from it, but kind of just in the moment of it and just like, wow. And saying, man, this, even within this pod, is so expansive. And then when I step out of this pod, how much more the world expands. Like now, when you get out the pod, I had some cantaloupes or honeydew. That's what I had. Like it tasted differently because it's like, whoa, this is like everything kind of intensifies from it, and even your thought. One of the things that I've been working on in the last year was like what I would call compassion and empathy, and just having that. Right. Even this week, the sales process. I met a really good sales guy. I didn't buy from him, but the way that we decided not to do business with each other anymore was just like, I said, man, that's what sales is like to me. Like sales to me would be allowing the person to make a decision, whether it's yes, whether it's no, whether this is in the right time. And just really getting them out of the fog, because that's what he did for me. He took me out of the fog of what should I do next? He gave me the information, and then he was just like, yeah, Mike, don't even worry about it. Like this is just, I'm clarifying this thing for you. So if any time that you're ready, I'll be here, or you can just, text me or call me, and we can kind of throw stuff off of each other and see what route you want to go. And I'm like, man, that was like a dope experience, like a dope sales experience. I never really experienced a sales experience like that before. And so now this is something for me to kind of look forward to, right? It's not like, okay, you're not doing business. All right, bye. Right? This is like, how do you develop a relationship? How do you first connect and then develop a relationship for the future? Right? It's just the noticing and I don't think I would have noticed this thing if I didn't understand, one, I'm in the process, and to kind of connect within the process and notice these things and cherish these things, and I'll never have this feeling again. Right? We're going to be on to greater and better things, whatever that looks like, but you'll never be in this spot, this exact spot, the growing again. You know what I mean? You might have similar feelings to it, but it's probably never as strong. You know what I mean?
Man, I think that's great. I think it's great. Okay. So I'm speaking now directly about my thoughts, my inner thoughts, and I'm answering you according to my inner thoughts. And I do this frequently, right? I do this frequently, and I don't know if other people recognize that in other people, but I'm recognizing that in myself. And it's because when you ask that questions, it's like, oh man, this. That's what I'm recognizing, but I haven't said any of those things yet. So I'll give you an example. Well, I'll tell you some of the things I recognize in this conversation. Like one, when you started talking about getting out of that pod, the thought came to me that of thought, right? Being in that pod was like the expansion of thought, right? And so this is my take on it. The expansion of thought happens when we are able to get in a place where we no longer are concerned about anything else. There's nothing else in the entire world. When we get to that space and we began to walk in that and think inside of that or whatever it is, then we realize, oh, it's expansive. It's actually expansive, right? And so that's a place of thought. We can reach that place in different ways: meditation, prayer, silence, darkness, right? Even in the scriptures, when you look at the scriptures, and I've had this conversation with a few different people, especially over the last week. We've been discussing like that scripture out of the book of Genesis, where it says, in the first chapter, in verse 2 or 3, God said, "Let there be light." It's like, whew, and there was light. And then later on, he created the sun and the moon. So it's like there was light, like, yo. And then he separated light from darkness, like, yo, hold on, stop right there. Don't even go any further, because there's no sun like we know of. There's no moon like we know of. There's no stars like we know of. There's no electricity, there's none of those things. It's just light. And the light came out of darkness. And so when you start to think about a thought and a representation of a thought, to me, right, this is what in my studies, what I come to a conclusion of is that thought represents the knowledge or the knowing of something. It's when something that is in darkness becomes clear, becomes bright, becomes understood, becomes known, right? Known is probably the best way of stating this statement, because you don't have to understand it. You don't have to have wisdom. You just have to know that it is. That's all, right? So it's like when you open your eyes and you see this, you don't know it's called a water bottle. You don't know that there's water in there. You don't know that this is a label. You don't know that this is a cap. You don't know any of those things, but you know that this is now in your viewpoint, in your perspective. That's it. It's so simple, right? That's it. And going back to Mike's words of simplicity, it's just very simple. So it's like light I have attributed to knowing, right? Without knowledge, without understanding, without wisdom, just simple visual foundation, right? Of some sort. And so it's like this is in the process of thought. And so when we're in the great expanse of thought, all things become known. Because whatever we think about is just as if I put this bottle in front of my face, because no matter what we think about, it is the only thing that is there. And it becomes all knowing. And no matter what we touch in thought becomes a space of knowing. And so like I experienced what you're talking about, Mike, for my first time without knowing it, right? But like all of the stuff that you just said, I had the same experience when I came out of it. And that was when I was praying. And for those of y'all who aren't, quote unquote religious or whatever, just hear me out, because it's not meant to persuade you in any way. But I was seeking for the Holy Ghost. And I was seeking for such a long time with my eyes closed. And so I went into like this meditative way of speaking and everything. And before I knew it, I lost sight on my tongue, on how I was speaking. I lost sight on where I was. I lost sight on everything. And I just went into this huge darkness. And when I was in the darkness, my mind began to travel as if it was a man of its own. And somewhere in that man of its own, I met what I was looking for, right? And I had a conversation. And I began to know what I was looking for. And I began to feel as if I was known by what I was looking for. And so, like, to step away from that very spiritual aspect of it and bring it back down to describe the synchronicity of between what you just shared and what I'm sharing, right? Because they're not necessarily the same, but they could be considered so. Is that in that process, I recognized this expansion, not knowing it was an expansion. And when I came out of that darkness, you know, I stepped out. Everything that I smelt had a greater scent. Everything that I saw was brighter. Everything just appeared to be new and full and vibrant, and just everything had changed. I mean, I went to a Denny's because it was like 1 o'clock in the morning, and I was like taking a bite out of something. It was like, oh. It's like what is this miracle food? And it was like the conversations. What is this miracle conversation? Every single thing was just so great, so great. And I attribute that, hearing this story now, it's like, yeah, I was in this darkness, and when I just like moved into the quote unquote light, the regular light of this world, I recognized the expansion. Before, all of this was an enclosure. My mind had closed me in. No matter how big the world is, my mind closed me in. I was in bars. I was like, I'm in this little house. I'm in this little relationship. I'm in this little community. I'm in this little city. Everything was just little, so small. But going into that deep darkness and like losing myself in there, and then finding myself in there, and then emerging from out of there, everything became brand new. And I brought the expansion with me.
I was getting goosebumps as you were talking about it, because
I saw you move. Is that what that was?
Yeah, yeah. The experience is so surreal, and I've heard you explain it in this context. Joe Hudson explained it once, and I was like, "Oh, that's what that was." He calls it his 8 seconds. 8 seconds of oneness is what he called it, and he said he had went to like a 10-day retreat, Vishpashana, which I don't need at this time. But he said he went into the bathroom and he just had this 8 second of oneness. And then he said he was like in his 20s, I believe. He went with his wife, or was going to be his wife. And then girlfriend, I believe. And then he said he spent like the next 8 to 10 years of his life trying to chase it exactly like that. Like he wanted it exactly like that. And I was just like, I did a breathworks course once, and I remember I had that super similar feeling. And I'm like, whoa. I jumped out, and I think Chalky was looking at me crazy. Chalky's my dog. And I just wanted to hug him. I'm just looking at him like, whoa, like everything was just, like you mentioned, expanding. So as I was going through this, and I've been doing a lot of work in the last couple of years, and to me, it's like when you said expansive, some of that stuff is like your heart opening. It's like a heart opened. And when I think about the work that's done, I kind of think of, head, heart, and gut are some of the things that I kind of tie together. But that expansiveness for me tends to come from like the heart. Like if I open up the heart, it becomes like, and I think you and I have had conversations about this heart in the last couple of weeks with when we had Beethoven on the show. But it's like that heart feeling is like this expansiveness. And you're just looking around like, to me, it's like, and I don't know if you had this feeling, but it's like, how do you contain it? It's like, you almost got to get grounded. Like I need to, so what I do is I'll like put a little bit of attention into my body, like make sure my feet are on the floor. That's what they call grounded. So you get grounded in some kind of way, maybe. And I noticed that the Maharishi, like he'll twirl like a flower in between his hand. I used to be like, why is he twirling this flower in between his hand? I'm like, oh, okay. It's kind of keeps you grounded because it's like the levels are like, am I on the ground? Am I in the sky? Like it's just this huge feeling, and then it, it's here. Like I think when you have like some of experiences similar to that, like it just changes you. Like you can't help but be changed. You just you at one time it was like I just want everybody to feel this. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Go ahead, brother. Jump in.
Yeah.
Jump in.
No. That's it. That's it. Like we are so. I came out feeling the same way, and also I came out feeling like you already feel like what I'm feeling. Like I was so naive. I was really naive. It was like I just felt like everybody had to feel like me, and I treated everybody like they felt like me. And then later, my pastor came to me. He was like, "Yeah, Joe, no, it's not for everybody. That's what's going on inside of you." It's like you need to be grounded in so many words. Like you need to come back down, sir. You need to come back down because there are still some things that are happening around you, and you need to understand that those things they still exist, and that you and those things share the same reality when you all are near to each other. So you still have to be, there's like this sense of, I don't want to say protective, but you have to be very aware and cognizant that everybody is not floating like you're
Yeah.
floating. You're floating. Everything's
Yeah.
perfect for you. You are perfect. Your world is perfect. They say that you can't be perfect, but at that moment you are. You are perfect.
That's the feeling. He said, "Gosh, I'm trying to balance." How about that? Like the way that we get a chance to balance it out. It's hard to contain though, right? Especially amongst people that you like genuinely in a relationship with, love. You know what I mean? Your family, your friends. It's like, just come on, if we all can just go, we, we don't got to worry about nothing. And then all of a sudden the FPL bill hits. Because you don't want to worry about worldly things, is what somebody wants to say. Like you don't want to worry about these worldly things. But once you get that balance, and to me, like this is what I'm experiencing now, like holy, is like, okay. I think we've been speaking about this a lot as well, holding space for other people and within ourselves, because I would call it that 8 seconds of oneness is what Joe Hudson called it, and I'll just keep using that frame. We still have thoughts, right? We still have this, our past experiences, etc. We may look at them differently, but for me, I found that these things still like, oh, I'm still, that did happen to me. I may look at it differently. Maybe people who went through that experience with me, they possibly don't look at it. They possibly look at it the same way, right? So I remember I met somebody recently that I knew from, I don't know, I'm always gonna know him, but since I was a kid, and we were having a conversation, and in the midst of the conversation, I was like, oh, he doesn't know this Mike. Oh, Mike version, whatever version this is, like he doesn't know this information because he's older than me, so he's treating me like we're still young. And so it's like, now I got this beard. I can show people like, you see, you see these whites, you're right. I tell them that's wisdom and patience, like the price that I'm paying for wisdom and patience, but still being able to hold him for where he's at. Right? Because it's like, I still have love for this person, but I'm no longer that. I'm not going back to what it was because this feels so much better for me. Like you mentioned, this expansiveness of it, but I'm still holding you where you are. And just maybe I'm not here to change you because nothing's wrong with you. You're not broken, but you're just at that part in the journey. So like we know the saying, meet them on the level, right? So meeting people on the level, right? But still embodying everything it is that I am. that I'm here. We're meeting on this level, on whatever level it is, to where we can at least align and have a conversation. Otherwise, you all might put me in the loony bin. But allowing this thing to just open up. What helped me with that is just being curious and wonder, like, man, what's going on? Like starting to ask questions, some of these how and what questions. Okay, so how does that make you feel? Where are you at? Not necessarily taking what it is that you have, but just kind of looking at it like, oh, okay, I can see that. That's the empathy and compassion part. Yeah, I totally understand how we got here. Oh, okay, now I understand. Oh man, that's dope, right? And it reminds me, and it's like it's this human feeling, it's just connecting. But that feeling of this expansiveness, man, if anyone, possibly if you're watching this show and you went through this, you're not alone, right? These things are happening any kind of way, however they way, but at the right time for you. And if you're trying to figure out what the balance looks like, because like you mentioned, what'd you say that your pastor said? He said everyone doesn't feel this way.
Yeah.
And and then that you could kind of feel, I think I felt anyways, like dejected, like for real? Like they're they're
Yeah.
not they're not feeling it. And they made okay. Okay, then wisdom and patience, meeting us where we're at. This doesn't mean that I'm better than you. You're not better than me. There's nothing. It's just we're having different experiences, right? And I just happen to really be present and love where I'm at within it.
Mm, that's good, man. That is real good, Mike. Something that came up, another thought. I had a few thoughts. I guess we're not going to touch on all of them because we're already passing some of them just in the conversation. But like when you asked that question, you're like, "What did your pastor say?" And then I started thinking about it. I'm like, "Gosh, man, Mike, you're like so smart. Very analytical, very cognizant of things that are happening, and very cognizant of what you're not cognizant of. If anyone can get their mind around that, it's the knowing that there's an unknowing, right? And some people don't. They're not very cognizant of that. Um, Nonetheless, in this space, right, where you've just gone through this process and you entered into the coin phrase of the 8 seconds or the expansion or whatever you want to give the name of. It's like when you come out, especially as a babe, it's like having somebody to hold their hand is super, super nice, right? And like, why did I bring Mike up in the very beginning? It's because you're at this stage where whether someone is directly holding your hand, which I mean, you could always tell us if that's kind of like what it is. It sounds like you had somebody to bounce a few things off of. But it's like there's a lot of his narrative that I've found over these conversations where you're just like talking about how you are doing this deep work. So it's like I'm going through this process, right? And as I'm going through this process, this is a stopping point and it expanded me, right? So I'm a little bit more prepared for it. Sometimes you can go into this and you may not feel as prepared for it when you exit out. Um, that comment, feeling dejected or feeling as if what everybody doesn't feel this way, it is super, super helpful to have somebody there to kind of like hold your hand, right? um, my leader, he would quote this scripture and he would say, let me carry you until, this is a scripture, but he would say, let me carry you until Christ be formed into you, right? And then he would say, and when he does, I'll put you down, but I'll still hold your hand. And it's like this mindset, if you all will, once again, I'm not trying to go religious guy on you or anything like that. I'm not religious myself, and I could explain that a different day. But it's just when you are quote unquote born into something, right? And I feel like what we're talking about is like going through, maybe we don't experience the travail of those giving birth, but we are yet and still like passing through a womb of understanding, of, of heart or of mind. When we go into that absence and find this expansion, right? And then we come out of that absence and expansion and find this vast expansion of wonderment. It's like we've gone through a passage. And when we reach the other side of that passage, even if it was something that was known, it becomes like an unknown. It must be relearned, right? Because now the experience that you brought out of darkness, you brought that with you to light, and it dwarfs what is in the light, right? And it's like, this is true light. Well, this is, whew, I hope y'all are getting this, right? And so now having somebody to kind of hold your hand and be able to tell you, hey, everybody is not like that. They didn't experience what you experience, or having that book or that podcast where, I explained this, my version, Mike explained this, my version, Joe Hudson, his version. And it's like, okay, ding, 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 ding. I can relate. And that is the equivalence of holding someone's hand, right? And it helps so much because you can be out here and never go back. And you could, Mike, you gave this reference. You say, y'all might want to put me in a straitjacket. And it's like, whoo, to explain this type of thing and not have the context or the ability to explain the words. That right there could wind you up being placed in a place that you do not want to be. Who's that? What's his name, Mike? Who is attributed to having designed the light bulb 1000?
Edison.
Thomas Edison, right? It's like we need to put him in a straitjacket. Why? Because I want to make light. You can't make light, but I can. I've seen it. No, you can't. You're down here in the dark doing the same thing every single day. You cannot replicate it. And going back to your point of the chase, it's like the chase. I want to get back to that quote unquote 8 seconds. The chase. I got to replicate it. The chase. I've got to do it. The chase. I'm going to do it. And it's like, no, you are going to go in a straitjacket. We lost you, Mike. Visual is gone. Microphone check. All right, he's going to be back, y'all. That's my belief. And it's just like the chase of that right there is just so expansive. It's like it's almost becomes like this never-ending chase, this never-ending desire to feel. Yeah, see you. We see
Mic
you.
check. Okay.
Mic check. He's back. Yeah, he's back. And so, like, and that's what I meant by earlier when I was talking about these thoughts, because it's like boom, this boom, this boom. And it's like that happened today, that happened today, that happened yesterday, that happened last year, that happened 20 years ago, that happened 25 years ago. And it's like it all is just like coming together. And that is the experience in the expansion, if you will. I'm just a phrase, but that's the experience. It's like knowing all of these things that has happened over the last 25 years since the day that I felt that is this is like all those things that I felt then. And it's like, boom, you can't go out there telling people that type of stuff. Like, what did you smoke, brother?
Well, here's the thing. You can, right?
You can.
Like we can. And I think And I think we do in our own way, right? I think we do through embodying it a certain kind of way. And people are like, well, possibly are like, man, what's going on with him? And if they're at a certain stage, they may even ask you, or maybe you volunteer the information, right? That's why testimonies can be so powerful. Because just me hearing Joe Hudson say what he went through, I'm just like, I understand that. Or hearing what Maharishi said he went through, like he said he went to the top of a hill and sat down against a tree during lunchtime and woke up and was like, what just happened? Like he was in a whole different, in that space. However, watching these older guys specifically like go through it and then see how they kind of maneuver with it and give words of encouragement, to your point, brother, it's awesome to have someone to hold your hand or to be able to see what it is. And then if you want to truly understand it, that's what I did. I just went like, what is this about? Right. Like, and really reading about it in different, the people who have these different experiences over, whatever it is that they choose to believe in their belief system based upon their environment or whatever it is. Like, how did they put this thing together, and then what came from it? And you said something. I was like, you said it's you go in and then the light happens. And correct me if I'm wrong, but this is what I heard. Then there's like this unknowing, right? And it's like relearning the knowing, because now you're coming from different space, which I thought was just like, because that for me at some one point could lead you into what people call nihilism. We're just like, so what's the point? Right? Because there's all
this is what Solomon went through. He was like, all is vanity.
And it's true, because there's a point where it's just like all things work together for the good, right? So you could easily get caught up in that moment where just like, okay, right? Like it's gonna work, and it is, because it is gonna work out. Like who was saying, like, I think I had a friend who said, when it works out, it's over. So if it hasn't worked out, it's not over, right? So you can get to that point. So I was even thinking like, so what happens now? And to me, it's like just embodying in it in your unique way. Like you start to really love who you are and your uniqueness and how you present, because you're not everything, right? But your uniqueness in this everything. So it's like, okay, if I embody this in a way, who comes to me, who doesn't is, who's attracted is not, which is tough for people who want to be people pleasers. And everyone, people want to be liked, right? I just did an interview on Wednesday and people were putting some crazy stuff in the comments. I'm just like, what am I saying? Like, where am I not accurate? They don't point out where you're accurate or you're not. They start to attack you specifically, right? Because, and even me, like, it's like, whoa, you know what I mean? I'm past like just being liked for the sake of being liked, but I don't know anyone who just wants to be insulted, right? Or sit there and be insulted. I haven't reached that space yet. I got a couple more years, but I'm not going to go back and forth and argue because of where I'm at in this space. Oh, and I can understand, because I probably was there at one point in time. Oh, somebody's miserable. Oh, this is the trigger button. Back in the day, it was like one of your mama stuff. You ever had someone said something about your mother and you just be like, and had nothing to do with your mother, but because they said it, we got to go fight, right? And what I've noticed growing up to that point is that how I speak to people and the things that I talk about, I used to say, I'm just navigating this your mama stuff, for adults. You know what I mean? Because I don't know what it may be, but it's a certain word, it's a certain way that I said it, something that might trigger someone, although the way I meant it to be expressed was strictly neutral. But it'll take people down the road. How do I know that? Because it's happened to me, right? I'm like, but just being able to express it in your unique way and being okay with it. And then working on your skill. That's the only thing I would add for it. And that's what I do for myself. Like working on the skill of communication, right? Okay, these are some hot button items, especially once you start asking the right questions. Like, okay, I can't go down this route with this person. I can't go down this route with this person. Like, how do I explain this to where there's not necessarily a charge to it, right? Although emotions are in everything, but to a point where they just black out. You know what I mean? But it's an awesome experience, and I'm glad that there's so many teachers and people out there that have went through the process that gives people a chance to kind of pick where they can land to where it hits them in the right way. Because I think all of us are also looking at for someone similar to us, or we can relate to or resonate with, even better, that kind of went through it before, and we're like, okay, we're really not alone on this journey.
That's good. That's good. Finding that tribe. There's so many different things that come back to like that Maslow's, hierarchy of needs. It's so basic and so simple, and it just still works, man. And that's like age old wisdom. That's sage wisdom right there. When you find something and you can unlock it, and you can create something as simple as a triangle with 5 stages or whatever it may look like, and just put it out there, and it just lasts decade after decade after decade. It's like, okay, that's pretty amazing. It's really amazing. So I love this conversation. This was really a great conversation, about being in the process, being present in the process. And I really feel like it means a whole lot. Um, I know, Mike, one of your big things right now, one of your studies is about joy, and just like feeling the joy of it, and like that, being present in the process, to me, it feels like joy, right? That's what it feels like. It feels like joy. And I may not use that framework to speak it at all times, but that's what it is. It's like, yo, you just can't hurt me. You can't hurt me. Why? Because I recognize the process, right? I recognize the process. And the process means that I'm being made, right? It's like the refiner's furnace. So if it's hot, then I'm being purified. I'm gonna come out as pure gold, baby. You just can't hurt me. You can't. Ooh, boy, that's so hot. Ooh, that burns, baby. I'm coming out as pure gold. Wait until you see me. And it's, for me, it's like, okay, I did this once, I did it twice, I did it 10 times, right? I did it in the night, I did it in the day. You know what I'm saying? I did it consciously, I did it unconsciously. I'm just looking back over my life, and I'm like, yo, you said testimony. My testimony speaks that I've come through all these things. All things work together for good. So hold up, stop for one moment. Now I get what trust the process means. Now I get it. Now I get it. Like that was a phrase that was coined. And I know that I was one of the people. I was like, okay, I'm just going to trust the process. I didn't realize that I already had trust in the process by having faith. Like I just faithfully walked. That was it. That was it. Like the phrase was coined, and that's why many of you all might hear me speak something slightly different, especially over the last few months, because I think I mentioned it to Mike. It's like there's a lot of different gurus. And by the way, I'm going to put my disclaimer out there real quick. This is not a tear down on any guru, because I may be considered a guru to somebody, right? So it's not that. It's simply that I'm going to put myself in it. We have learned to put things in frames of classification for other people to understand faster, right? That's it. And sometimes what we will do is we'll give you the latter end without the beginning, or give you the beginning before we give you the end, or we'll give you the middle. And it's like, it's your job, if you're not like holding a hand of somebody, to understand that whatever we give you, no matter when we give you it, that is part of the process. It's not everything. It's a piece. And it's like, what I've learned is that I put myself in this, is that we sometimes will say, you know, these are these real key points. I'm avoiding the word like just absolutes, you know, but these are these key points. You know, just do that. I said it. See how difficult it was for me. Whew, that was so challenging, and I still did it. Yeah, we'll say those things, and those things can line up, especially for the right person at the right time, in the right moment, with the right mind. And for some others, if those things don't align just right, it's like, but he said, and it ain't working. It's a reason. You know, there's a switch that wasn't turned on, maybe, you know. The process, you're in the middle of it, maybe. So it's like, let's just awaken to that. Let's be a part of that talk, right? And let's get some clarity. Mike, you always said, let's be present and let's learn to enjoy that moment, because that moment could be there for our learning, right? It could be there for our learning. And if it is, why not learn, right? Why not? So I'm gonna leave that unclosed in some way, shape, and form, because I feel like that opens up a brand new conversation, and I know we're probably close to the end of ours for today.
Yeah. There's a saying, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I took from what you, in a nutshell, right? Because I know the brother, I know me. Most of the stuff that I tell the people are like, you know, they're principled, they're foundational things. Like most people just add their sauce to it. That's what I say. I say people add their sauce. It's like it's all barbecue, you know, but you add your sauce to it. You right. So what happens is that the story that you, or how you relate to it based upon your experiences, you may add a bunch of stuff to some very simple concepts. So it doesn't even matter what guru or person is in front of you, teacher is in front of you, right? You can have who I would consider probably one of the top-notch people, like a Tony Robbins, in front of you explaining something to you, using all the NLP he can use, or he calls it something different, using all of the different strategies that he has, that he's learned over the last however 40, 50 years, how long Tony's been doing it. And it's like, huh? You know what I mean? And if you're not actually attempting to seek it, right, and see what's true and what's not, but you're using it based upon what you believe or whatever it is you got going on, it doesn't make no difference. Meanwhile, someone could just walk in off the street and they're ready to receive that information, and he'll say a couple of things, and it's like, okay, I'm going to work. And the result is something that we got to take a look at as well, because what can also be blocking us is the way that we want to see a result, right? Like you may see Tony and you may say, I want to be Tony, or better than Tony, right? Comparison is the thief of joy. So I want to be that. I want to be in that way. But what if you're not meant, that's not meant for you, right? Like, what if what's meant for you is to inspire somebody else to do something great? You may not necessarily even see it, right? But it's working out anyways. I think Chris, once he said something to me a couple of weeks ago, and I'm just like, wow, it was so profound to me. It was like, sometimes we're just who we are. Ooh. Right. So if you can just get to a point where you're okay with who you are outside of this certain types of validations, right? Definitely want to understand Maslow's hierarchy of needs and the point that we all want to be a part of a tribe. But maybe it's not the tribe that you thought. Maybe it's not being on Palm Beach as a socialite. Maybe it's being at the Boys and Girls Club, working with the kids there, right? Maybe it's being at a school teaching. Maybe it's at the gym training. Like, you get a chance to understand it and hopefully see what the alignment within yourself. And you can have all this stuff and this information and these high power coaches, and you're spending all this money on these resources, but maybe the refusal is for you to refuse to be who you are, like uniquely who you are. You're attempting to be somebody else. And I'll leave it at this. As I was coming out of the float today, another thought, float thoughts, that's what I'll call it.
What thoughts?
We use a lot of energy mentally, right? I know I do. I'm always thinking, part of it. And the energy is going to be used anyways. Energy can neither be created nor destroyed, right? A lot of the energy I noticed at times was me resisting something. Like, I'm overthinking something because I want to resist of what to me, it's not neutral to me. So I know whenever things start not to be neutral to me and there's like charges to it, my thought process starts to become pretty rigid. I start to be hyper vigilant and I start to think about all these different things. And today I was just like, man, Mike, just stop. You know how much energy you're using just to convince a thing or to figure out a thing when there's really nothing to be figured out? Because we've gone through this loop already, right? This is that doom scrolling. This is that rabbit hole energy where I'm just constantly going. I'm like, look how much, by the time I'm finished, I'm tired. I just want to lay down because I've done so much. I've expended so much mental, possibly emotional energy on this one thing, right? When to me, what I came up with ultimately was like, the answer for some of these things was just open up your heart to it. Like, open up your heart to this thing. And sometimes this is just what it is. I hope someone caught that. I'm glad I explained it to you because I caught it.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
That's real good. That's good. That's real good. That goes back to something you said a few weeks ago when I started talking about emotional intelligence. And there's 4 key parts to emotional intelligence, as I know you know, and that's just like self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, social management. And you were mentioning something about you and your son, and I was like, oh yeah, that's kind of like social management. You're like, I don't like to think about it like management. I'd rather not manage, right? And it's just like, I thought that was really unique the way you said it. And this goes back to what I was saying about the quote unquote gurus, like the way that we, in using your words, I hope people are catching this because I'm like in that kind of flow where I speak on a whole lot of different parallels. But you were talking about the barbecue. Everybody does barbecue. You just add your sauce to it. And it's like this emotional intelligence is like, okay, the sauce is management, right? But like, to your point, it's like, I'm not trying to manage, right? It was like, I'm not managing, right? And it's like, okay, if I'm managing, this what management looks like is oversight, right? It's like, I'm checking your work. I'm checking it twice. I'm going to find out, and it's just like, you're like, I'm not doing that with my son. I'm not managing my son. No, he has freedom, right? And it's like, I thought that was really interesting because to me, it like took the history, it took the theory and the study, it sucked the energy out of half of emotional intelligence for me. Like, it divided it in my mind. It's like, that's very true. It's very true. And so if I'm managing this social aspect or even a self aspect to a certain degree, it's like, what does that really mean? And again, going back to like these gurus, like whoever, I don't care who it is. It could be a teacher, an instructor. It could be a doctor. I don't care who it is. It's their sauce and they named it, right? They named it. And so and this goes back to our conversation we had, and like this was the avoidance that I was having just a moment ago about entering into this new realm of conversion, conversation. And it's like, it doesn't matter who named it, because if you'll recall, a month or 2 months ago, I had stated a statement that I hadn't stated on this show, I don't know, ever. And that statement was, words matter, and then they don't. And so this is the essence of what I'm saying about how words matter. Yes, they matter, because the understanding, the light, the knowing of what a word means makes a difference on the connotation or the feeling that an individual is delivering, and possibly the one someone is receiving. However, if I take a word and I give it a new definition, or I open it up in an expansive way, and it becomes an org chart of knowledge and symbolisms and thought and processes, then it may not align with the 3 or 4 or 5 or 7 or 8 different frameworks inside of the dictionary. And so now that word does not matter from that standpoint, but my definition matters. And there's a slight injustice that is served in a word when it's used in a frame.
Mm. That's deep.
Yeah, I had to shut up.
If I were to sum it up, what I heard, yeah, it was deep. The context is gonna supersede the word for me, like the actual thing. So how is this used in the context of it, of a thing? The word is used, the context of the word. We can pay special attention to. In sales, it'll help you discern a lot of stuff pretty quickly if you understand the context of the conversation. Yeah, but the words matter. Because remember at the beginning when we first started this show, that was like, the words have to mean something. And even if you go back and look at the show, we're looking on the computer like, hold on, wait, okay, this is what it means. Let's use it as it's stated. And then now it's like, okay, when you start to get a different understanding of it or experience of it, it's like, okay, the framework, the context is going to be, to me, is going to be a little bit more important than that actual, specific defined word in Webster's. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's a dope way to bring this thing home. Guys, this was a super I think, anyways, for me, I'm like, if you pay attention to me, my eyes are closing because I'm just like, let me slow this thing down. As far as level of conversation, going from the journey that we're all on this journey, right? Find someone you can be on this journey together with, that you all can align with. That's dope, right? Once you can get to that point. And then we got into I would call opening of the heart, the oneness, like coming out of that, like because that's a super I want to call like almost like a monumental thing. Like it's the trajectory, changing moments of those experiences up to this part of kind of how we're talking about this sauce. I do want to get into this guru talk at some point in time because I found that interesting. It's not the first time that you and I have had spoken about guru specifically, or a person being a guru. So maybe we'll jump into that conversation, because I think a lot of people are looking at people, especially in this day and age of attention, and how historically easy it is to grab attention, right? Because there was a point in time, if you wanted a bunch of people to know who you are or whatever it was, you had to have some type of influence. You had to have a lot of resources. I'll say that, right? Because you weren't just making a commercial on TV, right? Spending that kind of money. Most people don't have that. Now we have a show that thousands, hundreds and thousands and millions of people can watch. You can be on Instagram and get 1 million views. So people who are able to strategically use this resource, this now is just a phone, which everyone has, are instantly able to create certain credibility. And not to say that they don't have it. I'm going to say it. Some people don't have the credibility when you do a deep dive on it, but you're able to influence a bunch of people and present as such, right? Some things are super performative. So us to jump into that conversation in regards to giving people the information and how to discern, like Elijah, our kids, like they grew up in this age where they're seeing this thing. And to be able to point out some of the stuff like, I don't necessarily know if this is true or the kind of thing. Like I saw a guy in the gym a couple months ago, and then I saw him online. I'm like, they're two totally different people. I mean, and he has a huge following on this phone versus when I see him in the gym and his personality online, they're two totally different things. Right, wrong, or indifferent. I'm just showing Elijah like these are two totally different people. This is not how he is on a day-to-day basis. And I'm assuming he has to take what comes with this online presentation. So yeah, I think at one point in time, maybe we can jump into that conversation of guru and kind of dissect it in a way.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it. Y'all, I think we're wrapping up. So I definitely want to say I've enjoyed this conversation. If there's anything that you took out of this, let us know. Let us know in the chat. If you see us out, we are real people. We're real people, y'all. So if you see us out and about, come up, say hi, talk to us about what we talked about and stuff like that. And then these deeper conversations, we might have to go deep with you out there too, because these are some of these things we're arriving to in front of your eyes. It's like, and this is the essence of the Mike and Joel conversations, the telephone calls, is we would arrive at things out loud on the telephone, right? We would arrive at them. Everything wasn't so, hey, I've already been there and now I'm bringing it. It was like we would arrive. And then there was a bunch of things that was like, hey, I was there, so let me share it with you. And we were able to bounce off each other with some really monumental things that helped us to shift ourselves in life in those days. That has brought us to who we are today. Not saying that those were the only things that helped, but those were some of the things that did help us to seek new perspectives, right? So definitely interested in hearing what you all have to say. Type it up, put it inside the chat, let us know. Tell us about it. Tell us about your journey. What type of journey are you on? Can you write it down? That's a challenge.
I love it. Peace, y'all. Next week, God willing, and the creek don't rise. We'll see you. Peace.
Yo, check the mic, 1, 2, Beacon is the name. Lights up the city, ain't playing no games. Joel Simmons and Michael Seville, the vision is clear. Dropping knowledge, conquering all of your fear. Beacon, that's the sound of the future. The main hosts are here, they built the whole structure. Community strong, we rise from the ground, the beacon power up. Yeah, time to look up.